Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to episode 2 of NVTV. Today we're sitting down with Chad, who is the branch manager here at the North Office of North Valley Bank, and we're going to be talking about what is arguably the most important thing for your financial life. It is absolutely fundamental. Unfortunately, most people don't do this, and that is budgeting. So, Chad, I know you know a thing or two about it, so take it away.
I know a little bit. There is a lot that goes into budgeting. The income portion, the expense portion being the main two things. There are many different ways to budget. There are many different tools to use, but not each one works for every person. There's no one fail-safe answer for everyone's budget.
Right.
So finding what is the template that works for you is the first big step in forming a budget.
You mentioned a couple things right off the bat. I mean, yeah, that everybody's budget is necessarily going to look different, right? Mm-hmm. But there are definitely general principles and sections, right? There are principles that need to work for everybody. So you mentioned expenses, income. Obviously, that's money in, money out.
Yes.
So let's back up and say, what's the first step? Well, first of all, why do we want to budget?
The goal of budgeting is to spend less than you make.
Right.
If
you're spending more, you got a problem.
Yeah, having more coming in than is going out.
Yeah.
So that when those emergencies come along, you have something to pay for those emergencies versus having to reach for a credit card or a loan in order to take care of small day-to-day emergencies versus, the water heater goes out or new tires on a car versus if you're buying a house or something like that, a loan is a great option. But
the only option for most people.
Yes, the only option for most people.
I think, and you and I were talking about this yesterday, actually, ahead of this, but a lot of people have a general sense of what they're making and what they're spending, but I think a very few people actually are sitting down on a periodic basis and saying, okay, I make $2,000-$3,000 a month. Here's that income, and then here are all of my expenses, all my utilities, my house payment, all the things that I know I have to spend, and that's going to leave me X amount of dollars to play with.
Correct.
And I think, just back to why you want to do that. That's a stressful way to live, right? Not knowing and getting to the end of the month and having not enough money, or having to reach for that credit card, knowing you're building your debt.
Correct.
And usually bad debt. Mm-hmm. So I think just sitting down with the budget, working on a budget, whether it's you or you and your significant other, spouse, whoever else is involved in the financial picture, and just knowing where you are, even if it's not great.
Yeah,
it's better to know that you're not good and have a plan to fix it than just to be flying by the seat of your pants and digging yourself in a bigger hole.
Correct.
And then once you know where you are, you can build that plan. So I guess that's what at least from my perspective, why you want to budget. So let's talk about So I've not done this before. I need to get a budget together. What are the first steps to actually do this thing?
The first steps in budgeting is figuring out your income. Use your true income. If you make $48,000 a year salary, then most people would start off by saying, I make $48,000 a year. That's $4,000 a month. That's where we'll start with income. And that's fine, as long as you are factoring into your budget taxes and insurance and things like that come out before you even see your money.
Because that paycheck's not going to be $4,000 a month.
Correct. So the better way, in my opinion, to get started is factoring up your take home. And then the next step is starting your expense side. And the big start is taking all your bills that come out monthly, your rent, your mortgage, your car loan, your car insurance, utility bills, those types of things, and listing them. All your monthly reoccurring payments, student loan debt, credit card debt, anything like that you have a monthly payment on, getting those all listed out. Secondly is going back through your bank statement, I would say for a few months, and kind of adding up all of your food expenses, your entertainment expenses, clothing expenses, things like that, to get an average of what you've used over the last few months, to get a kind of a more broad spectrum rather than just the last month. So once you get all those listed out, you can truly see where the money's going in your expenses category. And from there, having the income and the expense side, you can start to formulate a budget moving forward.
Yeah, and I think you definitely said it, but let's just make it a little clear. The first step is know what you're taking in and what you're spending now. I know yesterday you were saying that you had some like ratios as far as like
One ratio
where you want to be.
that works for a lot of people. It's the 50-20-30 rule. 50% of your expenses going towards the necessities: rent, utilities, car payment, those types of bills. And then the 20% of that equation is for savings, to set aside 20% of the income for those rainy day funds, for future uses, those annual expenses that pop up, things like possibly property taxes or homeowners insurance, kids' field trips, Christmas. It's putting the 20% back to save for those types of things. And then the 30 is your discretionary expenses, the things that matter to you that you want to spend money on, like you said, like eating out, like entertainment. Sticking within that, you're covering all your basic needs, some of your wants, and planning for the future by using that
Right.
ratio.
Right. Ed, you mentioned like entertainment, discretionary funding. That's really important because it's kind of like a diet we were talking about yesterday. Like a lot of people will sit down with this and they will go very extreme and they'll map out all their expenses, all their income, and they won't let themselves have any fun. Right? They won't allot any dollars for that month to go and go out with friends or go to a show or go play golf or whatever it is that you do that you enjoy doing. If you do that to yourself, you will throw this budget away pretty quickly because your life will be miserable and you won't be having any fun. Budgeting is a process, right? It's something that has to needs to be revisited. Life's going to change. You're going to get raises. You're going to change jobs. You might have kids. Like life situations come up that are going to change that equation all the time. So don't fill this thing out, stick it in the drawer, and not look at it for 4 years.
You may discover that 2, 3, 6 months into this, that your budget's not working for whatever reason. That doesn't mean the budget has failed. It doesn't mean that the process has failed. It just means that you need to adjust and evolve and not quit.
And I think most people will find, regardless of where your starting point is or how great or good that picture looks when you sit down and just evaluate where you're sitting, as you're going forward and you become more aware of the dollars you're spending and the dollars you're bringing in. And not that you need to be sitting there obsessing about it every minute, because that's not necessarily healthy, but you just, you're thinking about, okay, is this in the budget, or is this an expense that I really can afford? You'll get to, the end of month 3 of that process, and you'll end up having more money in your bank account than you think, just because you're more aware and you're less likely just to be whipping out credit cards or cash or, spending money because you're just more aware of the whole process in your financial life. And so very quickly you can need to readjust your budget because you have more money than you think you do.
Just having it kind of front of mind and seeing where your money's going each month, each quarter, even each day, starts you on the right track for being cognizant of what you are spending your money on.
Yeah. So this is a little tangent, but what happens? I've got my budget together, and I'm rocking along, and then I have one of those like emergencies come up. It could be $500 and I've got that in my savings account, but what happens if the engine of my car blows up and I got $1,500, or my kid gets sick and I've got to max out the deductible on my insurance plan that I didn't plan for? In an ideal situation, like that's actually all budgeted. I've got like insurance deductible budget. I'm setting money back because I know my kids could go to the hospital and I could need to spend that, and I've got that covered. But a lot of times that's not the case, and we have these one-off unexpected expenses. Like, what should I do?
That's where it's not necessarily a bad thing to take out loans, get credit cards, whatever the case may be, in order to take care of that emergency. I know a lot of medical companies, whether it's the hospital, the doctor, whatever, they can set you up on payment plans, which may help with the long-term bill. And that's where you have to refocus your budget and start factoring that new payment in. Not everybody's going to be able to pay cash for those things or have the true savings, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I would sort of add to that, like a lot of times these emergencies come up and they catch us off guard, and a lot of times we kind of panic and, okay, well, I have that credit card and I'm going to pull that out. That may be your best option. I would say, like, when an emergency like that happens, like,
Correct.
take a breath, and you do have options. You've got banks that will give you personal loans. You do have credit cards, which it depends on how you used it in the past and what that credit card is. You may be looking at 20% interest if you put that thing on the credit card. That's a terrible idea. But you may have, a free credit card that's going to give you 12 months, 0% interest. That's not a bad idea. So, but, don't panic. There are options, and knowing what some of those options are before that happens is really helpful too.
Correct. And reaching out to people like myself, bankers that you know and trust and have probably seen. You're probably not the first one that's been through that type of experience.
Right.
Not the first one to have an emergency. So the chances are your banker, accountant, lawyer, somebody along those lines is going to be able to help you with some resources in order to effectively cover that emergency.
Yeah. Well, what else do you want to throw out there as far as budgeting is concerned before we wrap this up?
One thing that a lot of people struggle with is simply tracking it. And so I have to highly suggest, online banking and products like that, to where you can follow along with your spending, so that you can go back and check it from even week to week versus month to month.
Yeah.
So being able to use all the tools at your disposal, and easy, especially in the beginning, an easier way to track your spending is to use your debit card instead of using cash.
Right.
So that
There's an electronic record there.
because there's an electronic record and you can see where the money's been spent.
Yeah, and if you use cash, save your receipts.
Exactly.
And I would say, like, these things are great for our lives. We do a lot of stuff. There are budgeting apps out there.
Definitely.
I'm not going to recommend one necessarily here now, but I use one for my businesses, and like, I literally get in my car after I spend anything, set the receipt on my leg, and take a picture, and then throw it away. Like, so you don't have to be like stuffing all your receipts in an envelope. Like, there are lots of tools out there developed for this that can help you along that process.
If the app that you download works for you, then that's great.
Yeah.
If taking pencil to paper is what works for you better, then use that. Another tip that I have that I personally use, it works for me, is save first. When you get your paycheck or you get your direct deposit, set that savings aside right at the beginning, rather than trying to account for all your bills first and then put the savings aside.
Right. Take it out first.
Take it out first. You'll find, I know myself personally, I find that I don't even miss it.
So one thing I wanted to add is, when you're talking about budgeting tools, what a lot of people don't know is a lot of the online banking that banks offer now for free have budgeting tools right there in the app. Because I know North Valley has it, and it will literally give you a pie chart of here's your income, here's your expenses. It breaks everything down for you based on your debit card charges and your checks that are written. So definitely people should be checking their banks to see what they offer, because banks want to, just like North Valley, we want to help you budget just the same as you want your budget to be great.
Of course. And back to your point, that's another great reason why you would think about using, a debit card over necessarily a credit card or cash. Well, I think we've droned on for quite a while and covered quite a bit. So we'll wrap this up, but just sort of kind of bring it back to the beginning. The whole purpose of this, the whole project of MBTV, but specifically budgeting, is to make sure that you have a good foundation for the financial aspects of your life. Well, Chad, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. Thank you all for watching. We will see you next week for the next episode of MBTV.
There's very little more fun than jams and jellies. Last time I tried to ski, I almost died. Life wins. It's all about perspective. I want everybody to learn something, because the more you know. All rise. What do I do with my hands?
Al Roker.
You're the brick cannon.
As long as